If you're a small business owner that has made the decision that 2025 is your year to sell your business, you may be thinking you're good to go. You've been in business for 25 years. You've got a great team. Your customers love you. You have very little competition because you're very strong in your local marketplace. Nobody does things as good as you. But here's the truth. Those are big things, right? Those are the reason you have a good business, but those are not the only things that a buyer is going to be looking at. So there are probably 5 things that you have been overlooking. And it's simply because you've just been busy running your business. I'm going to run you through them and give you some tips on what you can do to make improvements as you get ready to sell your business in 2025. The first thing is owner dependency. When I speak to most business owners, they don't believe that their business is owner dependent, but you have to look at, if you were to leave the business for a month and you couldn't check your email and you couldn't answer your phone, when you came back at the end of that month, how many things would have been set aside for you to answer or do or make decisions on when you get back? I'm going to guess that is probably quite a few. Because you can take a week or 2 off and you feel very comfortable doing that, that doesn't mean that the business isn't owner dependent. Why it's important is, well, number one, if something happened to you, then there would be, the business could be in turmoil, even if you weren't selling. But number 2, a business buyer is going to look at this and say, okay, what's everything that this owner does that nobody else can do that I'm going to have to do? And most business buyers don't want to buy themselves a job. They are looking for a business to buy, especially if that business has been around for 20 years. They would expect to be able to come in an ownership position as opposed to an owner operator that has a job to do. So just something for you to think about, and take an honest look at if you have an office manager or a key person, ask them. You can tell them that you're planning on making improvements for 2025, and I bet they'd give you some honest feedback. The next thing is messy financials. This will be a problem right out of the gate because this is the first thing that you have to get together when you're thinking about selling your business. So you're going to start coming across the term add backs. And what this is basically you will be adding back all of those. If you have run expenses through the business that are personal expenses, let's say you pay for your wife's car, that money gets added back into the business because when you leave, the new owner isn't going to be paying for that car. It increases the profitability of your business because you've been running expenses through and it's reduced the profit. However, really important, these add backs have to be verifiable. You can't just sort of have a number in your head. I noticed that a lot of small business owners, because they know the business inside and out, will spit off numbers to me. And then when I receive the report for that part of the business, let's say expenses for now, I'll get the reports and they won't actually match the figures that the owner has spat out to me that I've made a note of. So make sure that everything you're running in your head can be verified so that when a buyer comes in, they can actually have proof that this is a genuine add back and this money will be available when they buy the business as additional cash flow. The next thing is key roles, employee retention and training. You may be a small business that trains your employees by having them shadow another employee for a couple of days. Is anything documented? Are there processes? Are there procedures? That's what a buyer is going to be looking at. If you have a business that requires any type of OSHA safety, make sure that you have training in place for that. If people are supposed to be OSHA certified at certain things, make sure that they are. These items may not come out initially when you're talking to a buyer, especially if they've never run a business like yours, but they are going to come out in due diligence. So best to get out ahead of that. So do an audit of your training. If you don't have any training in place, try to get some going quickly, document some of the training, and at least while you're selling the business, you can be working on that. Okay. The final one is contracts. And contracts could be customer contracts. They could be your lease. These have to be, you need to check these. You need to read them or have somebody read them, whether it be your lawyer or a key person. They need to be assignable. Leases especially trip things up because there's a recurring theme where the business owner has interpreted things in their lease that aren't actually true. I had a situation a while back where the business owner believed that because they had first right of refusal, they could actually buy the building whenever they wanted. So when buyers were coming in, there was more interest to buy the building, the real estate with the business, and that turned out to be completely false. The business owner approached the landlord and asked if the building was for sale, and the landlord said absolutely not, and it never will be. The first right of refusal was just a protection should the landlord sell the building, but that was just never going to happen. You've got to read your lease. You've got to see if it's assignable. You're going to want to see if there are any increases that will happen should a new owner buy the business. Some leases will say that the rent will increase 5% if there's a new owner. Contracts as well. Some businesses have. I've done work in the funeral business, and there are lots of contracts there when people prepay for funerals and things like that. So reading your contracts, checking your training for your employees, making sure your financials are in order. If you're not selling right now, if you're selling in a couple of years, you've got time to work on all these things. If you're selling right now, you can do an audit of everything and see where you're at. So long as you know where you're at and you're honest about it, you can have a game plan to hand over to a buyer in a way that they can feel comfortable. You can get your employees involved and get the wheels turning on some of the things that may be missing. And then the owner dependency, that's a big one too. Make sure you audit and take a look. Be honest. There are so many things that business owners do. You wear so many hats, and we're all guilty of it. If you would like to take a self-assessment and see if your business is ready, if you are ready to sell, that's going to be a link in the notes here, and you can take that. It takes 60 seconds. It's 12 questions, and you will get the results of that report right away. So that's my gift to you. If you've watched all of this video, go ahead and take that self-assessment. And then you can see it'll give you a score and show the areas you need to work on. That should be valuable if you're getting serious about selling in 2025.